This wheat field had been in my family for generations. Every harvest, I worked from sunrise until the last truck left. I never expected the HOA to become my biggest threat. But that morning, everything I owned was about to change. I had spent months preparing this crop. The wheat was almost ready for harvest, and the season looked perfect. Then I noticed something strange near the far fence line. A dark trail of smoke was rising beyond my property. Within minutes, I realized the smoke was coming from my wheat field. Flames were moving rapidly across the dry crop. I called for help and rushed toward the burning section. But what I saw near the fence made my blood run cold. The fire hadn't started naturally. There were fresh tire tracks beside the damaged fence. Someone had driven onto my property before the flames appeared, and I already suspected exactly who was behind it. The HOA president had been fighting me for months. She wanted my land because it bordered their luxury country club. She claimed my wheat field was an eyesore and blocked their view. Now my crop was burning, and she suddenly wasn't answering my calls. I confronted Karen at the property line. She claimed the fire was an unfortunate accident. Then she told me the HOA wasn't responsible for anything outside their community. I knew that answer wasn't going to hold up. I went back to my office and pulled out the original land records. My ranch had an old irrigation system connected to the main levee. The water rights were legally mine, and the system had been there for decades. That was when I realized I had one option left. The levee was built to protect the farmland during heavy rain. The country club depended on the same drainage system downstream. I wasn't going to destroy anything or hurt anyone, but I was done letting the HOA control what happened on my land. I stood beside the old control gate and looked toward the country club. For years, the HOA had treated my property like it belonged to them. Now I was finally going to use the infrastructure I legally controlled. And Karen had no idea what was coming. I carefully opened the authorized drainage system. Water began flowing away from my ranch through the existing channel. I watched the current build as it moved toward the lower country club grounds. Karen was about to discover that consequences can travel downhill very fast. The water began moving exactly where the old drainage system was designed to carry it. I stayed at the control station and monitored everything carefully. My burned wheat field was already ruined, but I wasn't going to risk anyone's safety. Then my phone started ringing nonstop. Karen finally saw what was happening downstream. Water was spreading across the lowest section of their golf course. She immediately blamed me for the flooding, but she had forgotten one important detail. The drainage route was already on official records. Within minutes, the lower fairways were covered in muddy water. Golf carts were moved out of the flooded areas. The clubhouse itself remained on higher ground. But Karen's perfect little paradise was no longer so perfect. Karen called the county and demanded that I be arrested. She told them I had deliberately attacked the country club. I simply handed the officials the irrigation records and property maps. Then I asked them to check who had started the fire. Investigators returned to my field and examined the burned area. They found tire tracks leading directly toward the HOA access road. The damage pattern didn't look like an accident. Someone had driven onto my property before the fire started. The investigation changed everything. The conversation was no longer about a simple disagreement between me and the HOA. Officials were now asking why their access road appeared in the fire evidence. Karen suddenly stopped accusing me and started calling her attorney. By evening, the water had stopped rising. The country club had suffered major cleanup and landscaping damage. But the main building was still standing and nobody had been hurt. For me, the real fight was only beginning. The HOA tried to claim I had intentionally flooded their property. My attorney presented the original drainage plans and water rights documents. Then the fire investigation report was entered into evidence. The courtroom became completely silent. The judge ruled that I had the right to operate the existing drainage system according to recorded plans. But the court also ordered a full investigation into the fire that destroyed my crop. Karen's accusations had backfired completely. Now the HOA had to answer for what happened before the flooding ever began. The HOA wanted my land, burned my crop, and thought they could blame me for everything. Instead, their own actions brought the investigation straight back to their doorstep. I lost a season of wheat, but I protected my property and proved the truth. And after that day, the HOA finally learned that my ranch was not theirs to control.